begin with an experience that one Mata shared yesterday. She's in Gyan for the last 10 years, and yesterday I had an opportunity to sit and talk with her. So generally, we are always conducting classes, and so there's not much talking, but yesterday she was talking to me. And then she said that I asked her, she makes a lot of effort, like she comes from very far away to the center every day, and she takes every effort to follow Baba's Shrimat, although there is a lot of resistance in the family and everything. So I was just asking her about this love for Baba that she has, and I was asking her, so how do you have this deep love for Baba? So she comes from a very good family, and none of the family members are in Gyan, and there is a lot of resistance, but she makes effort. So I was just asking her, and then she told me something very beautiful. She said, Didi, when I was young, when I was 10, 11, there was a sect, there was a sannyasi sect very close to our place. We stayed in Punjab, and she said there was this whole organization there which consisted of sisters, and it was another organization, and she said they were also wearing white and practicing, like living like renunciate sannyasis. So I always thought that, I want to be part of them. I want to leave the house. I don't want to get married. I want to just be like them. And I always, while I was coming from school, going to school, I used to admire them. I used to stand there in front of their ashram for 5 minutes, 10 minutes every day, and I would just look at them and look at their white dresses, and I don't know, there was this feeling that, these people are pure, and I always was attracted to that. But when I was 16, I started understanding that I'm not a very, I'm not a very assertive person. And my father is not willing to keep me unmarried. So my father is not going to allow me to go and stay in an ashram or something. And I also understood that it's not just my father, but it was also me, because I don't have that kind of strength and I probably I don't have that kind of, resolute nature to fight against the wishes of my father. So from 16 onwards, it was very clear that I cannot choose that path. And then I started suffering very silently because of that. And she said, it is all in the mind. You see, Didi, I never shared this with anybody. Nobody in the family knows, nothing. But this is a secret that I'm sharing today with Baba. And she said, and then when I was 19, I was married off. And when I was married, and then, suddenly I felt like all my dreams are shattered, because I cannot be pure, and that path is not for me now. And I felt like I can never go back, and things can never be the same. And I gracefully, I accepted whatever was, and I started living the life of a grihasthi, and slowly, gradually, I started getting colored by it also, because when you live in an environment, so you don't realize how you get colored. And I also started being very egoistic and all of this stuff. But then suddenly, Didi, after these 20 years or 25 years of marriage. Suddenly I saw this center open in our vicinity. So when you people moved to our colony, at that time I saw you for the first time, and again, that desire that came out again. And then I undertook the course, and then, when I undertook the course, I had asked you a question: can we be Baba's good child while living in the household? So, does the fact that I am married, or does the fact that I have children, or does the fact that I have engaged in lust, or does the fact that I have been vicious in this birth not stop me from having the right to to belong to Baba? So, and you had said, no, Baba has come for us, Baba has come for the children who have been vicious for 63 births, and Baba has come for children who have been or are living in the household. And Baba says, you have to practice whatever I am telling you while living in the household, and you have every right to be the number one in Satyug if you just practice what I say while living in the household. And she said, Didi, I was so happy. I cannot tell you. I don't know if you remember that day, but I was so happy that I have a chance of, becoming what I wanted to become. And from that day, I started taking baby steps. I did not, because, I had also had this 20 years of journey, and I was also having a lot of sanskars, which I realized which had nothing to do with the husband or the children, but those were my sanskars. And I knew that we are all talking about sanskar parivartan. But it took me a lot of time to take, baby steps and then take big steps. But now I feel like, even while living in the household, I feel no less than anybody on earth, to claim that right to be the golden aged king or queen. So she was saying this thing, and I felt really, some stories really inspire you. And sometimes, when you read the Murli, we don't understand. Sometimes, there is so much of questioning in the society, because, many people in the world don't understand why Baba is coming and telling that you have to be absolutely viceless while living in the household. But do you understand that Baba is saying that if you want to be a deity, if you aim to be a deity in Satyug, then you be viceless while living in the household. Now you see that in Bharat, we know that for ages there has been this practice of leaving the household, going into the jungle, going to the mountains, and for what? For figuring out who God is, or for, searching for God. And we understand that, and that was appreciated, that was not looked down upon. If somebody left the household, they left everything, and they went out to search for God, then it was not considered, it was not considered escape, it was considered tyag. So, it was considered that this person renounced. They are called renunciates. They are not called people who, abscond. They are not absconders. They are renunciates. And here Baba is telling us that, when the world has accepted that finding God is such a big goal, that even leaving those who are dependent on you behind is not considered a sin if you commit it, because you have set out to find God. then Baba says that I'm not asking you to leave behind that what you have created, because whatever you have created, whether it's a family, whether it's children, whatever you have created, Baba says, I am a creator. I would never ask you to abandon your creation. And Baba says, I am just asking you to leave the vices while living in the household. Just practice purity, practice being free from lust, anger, ego, attachment, and greed. And Baba says, if you just did this much, then you will be you will be eligible to find a place and position in the golden aged world, and you will be able to transform this world from hell to heaven. And Baba says it is the energy of purity that the world needs today. And Baba says, this is what I am asking you to do. I am not asking you to leave your creation, but I am asking you to live in the household, but leave all the five vices and imbibe all the virtues that I am asking you to imbibe. And Baba says, if you did that, the world will change into heaven and you will change into a deity. And is it too much to do for this big task? You see that Baba says that just to find God, people left everything. And now Baba is saying that I'm not asking you to leave anything physically, but just leave vices while living in the household, and you will change and transform this world into heaven. And Baba says, if you did nothing, you will get nothing. You see, there is a very good saying, if you do what you have always done, you will get what you have always got. So we know that these days everybody wants to change their fortune, wants to change the world. And Baba says, for that you need to do some little extra effort. And I'm not asking you to take that drastic step of leaving the house. I'm just asking you to leave the vices while living in the house. And you see that if you look at it, the vices are anyways not serving you. Yes, the vices are not serving you anyways. So just think about how much of worry, how much of fear, how much of jealousy, how much of ego we are creating every day in the household, just because of this sanskar of being vicious, this sanskar of being defected. And I was just thinking the other day, that when people come to the center, they say that we feel the divinity, we feel the resonance of purity and divinity in the center. And when people enter the house, if somebody is not a good practicing Brahmin and they are living in a Lokik world, there is this vibration of vices in the house. Now you see, it's a household. And if you look at the center, what is a center? A center is also a household where there are 4 or 5 or 6 people living. But just because you have given up on vices, that's why there's such a big shift in the vibration. And I think, and I was just thinking the other day, that in the center, we don't use the phone a lot. And you just think about just this phone, this one cell phone, this one smartphone is spoiling so much of vibration of the house. And Baba says, just leave this sangdosh, this company that is spoiling your mind, your head, your vibration. Just leave this. Or even if you use it very discreetly. Just use it for listening to the Murli or classes, or just checking important messages. But we have to make a lot of, choices about how much and how we want to use the phone. And when we are engaging with souls around us, we have to start looking at them as souls, as pure beings, and not as objects of our attachment and lust, and not as objects to feed our ego. So you see that there is so much of inner work, in consciousness, in attitude, that we will have to do, so that in our actions we are viceless, because actions are a product of consciousness and attitude. So if the consciousness is not right, the attitude is not right, then how can the actions be vicious, actions be viceless? So I was just thinking, the other day, that in a household, you see, there is this one Mata, and she was saying that my husband is an alcoholic, and I am suffering acutely. So I said, why are you suffering if he is an alcoholic? So she said that I am suffering because I am very scared that because of the alcohol, he might just trip and fall and lose his life one day, or he might get some disease. So I am constantly in fear of that. And B, I feel, that my husband is not my partner anymore, and he has drifted away because of the alcohol. Now he is married to the bottle of the alcohol, and he is not married to me anymore, and he cannot even see my pain, or he cannot see my condition. He is not able to appreciate anything because he is so much under the influence of alcohol. So I told that Mata, and you think you are suffering because of him? So she said, of course. So I said, no, you are suffering because of your attachment. You are suffering because of your attachment. And then she said, so what should I do? I should just allow him to, fall from the stairs and die one day because he's so drunk every day. So I said, okay, so you really think that you can save him from falling from the stairs and dying one day? So you cannot save anybody from themselves. Why don't you understand that? And yes, you live in the house, so whenever you it is your you can be vigilant, and you, whenever you're around, it's okay if you are taking care of him, but don't ever live in the illusion that you can save somebody from themselves. You cannot save anybody from themselves. You can save someone from someone else, but if somebody is their own enemy, how can you save them? That's not happening. And then I told her, and this whole thing about missing his company and missing the partner. So you see, that was his last birth when he was her husband. He has taken another birth, and you yourself said in this birth he is married to the bottle of alcohol. So now you're no longer his wife. So don't keep looking at that, at these things, these expectations shouldn't be there. So you see, people are taking so much sorrow, people are giving so much sorrow because of this attachment. And Baba says that when you live, and lust is something that robs us of our spiritual energy. There is a reason why, sannyasis left the house just to leave lust. They did not have the strength to be pure, but they knew that leaving this practice of lust is mandatory, not optional. And they were even willing to pay the price of leaving the household just to stay celibate. So do you understand that there is a reason why they left it? Because lust robs a soul of the spiritual energy. your mind, your buddhi, everything gets tainted because of this lust. And Baba always says, fire of lust. So Baba says, just like, when somebody is put on a pyre, on a chitta, then everything of that chitta changes. So, that body changes into ashes. Similarly, lust is such that it burns all the qualities of the soul. So, and there is a reason why, in Bharat we worship those kanyas who are pure. So, those who have not hit puberty, and you worship those kanyas, and you bring them and worship them on Navratri. Why do you worship those kanyas? Because of their purity. And there is a reason why, purity is so celebrated in Bharat, that in the times of festivals and when there is the worship of God, then you are not allowed to engage in lust. So Baba says lust is a big enemy, and there is recognition that this lust is robbing us of our spiritual qualities. And that is why in Bharat there is this tradition of observing physical purity. But Baba says these days we don't think about these matters, and these days, people are just propagating lust. So, they are just advocating lust and propagating lust, and because that's how, vicious people behave. And Baba says that when people become vicious, their drishti becomes such, and then whatever they create in the name of propaganda or knowledge or whatever, that is full of their vicious ideas. But Baba tells us that while living in the household, if you want to become a deity, and if you want to have the power of purity, so purity is a very big power. And I remember there was this one brother, and he was telling me, sometimes there are some things which children observe. And this brother was sharing with me that, Didi, when I was young, when I was a kid, I had this intuition. And whenever, my family members were in trouble, they would turn to me for intuitive help. And they would ask me, where is this, or what should we do in this? And I always had this intuition, and I could guide them. And I was revered as some kind of deity in my family when I was young. And then he said, I don't know what happened, but I lost that capacity. And I asked him, so what do you think happened? So he said, I think I became vicious. And I realized that. So you see that there is so much power in purity. But how will we realize the power of purity? Only when you engage in purity, when you embrace purity. So Baba says, while living in the household, just give up lust. Just give up every act of lust, whether it is seeing something lustful, hearing something lustful, to thought, word, and acts of lust. And Baba says you have to embrace this purity and make that effort while living in the household, because you cannot be a deity and be lustful at the same time. And then Baba says anger. And do you understand that just like lust, anger is a sanskar? And I remember, there was this one sister, and she, when I came into Gyan, she was the first BK I saw very closely. And I observed that even in the most difficult of situations, what she would do is she would just talk very lovingly and politely. So, there was this one sister, and what she did is she put salt in the halwa instead of sugar. And this sister saw it, and she said very calmly, she said, Ben, namak nahi, chini dalna hai. So she said very calmly, she said, don't put salt, sister, just put sugar in it. So, and then sister said, this is spoiled and this and that. She said, no problem. You make another set and just use sugar. Sugar is in that bottle, not this bottle. And when I saw her, I asked her later, didn't you lose it, when when she couldn't see the difference between salt and sugar, and there was a lot of wastage, and there was wastage of ghee and stuff and everything. And she said, you know what, I have understood that anger is just a waste of energy. So I said, what does that mean? Because I was very new, I understood nothing. And I said, what do you mean by anger is a waste of energy? So she said, can I reverse that? Can I bring out that salt by getting angry? No. Can I make that sister think better next time if I'm angry? No. That's also not happening. And if I shout at her, it's only going to spoil matters, and she's going to do even more damage in future because of that. So I just know that anger is a waste of energy. Anger changes nothing. It's just a sanskar, we have developed this sanskar that when things are not my way, just shout, scream, just feel bad, create thoughts of irritation, but it doesn't help even this bit. And if anything, from experience I have learned, it only spoils matters. And you cannot change anybody by being angry. Yes, you can change somebody a little by being loveful. So she said, I'm not in a haste to change anybody. And I know that I asked her to make halwa because I couldn't do it myself. I was busy in the class. So when I have no option, I know that, everybody has to be involved and seva has to be done in Sangathan. So I take it and do it that way. And that one incident inspired me so much that I could see how wasteful anger was. Previously, I could never see that anger was wasteful. But after that incident, because somebody who has dharana, when you see them operate, it's very magical that you imbibe that virtue from them. And even if you listen to 100 classes, it doesn't happen. But when you see somebody with that dharana, you suddenly imbibe that virtue magically into yourself. And that sister gave me that virtue. And after that, I learned how to, just be quiet and respond peacefully to everything. And I understood that even if I responded angrily, nothing is going to change. So let me just respond peacefully. And whatever is done is anyways done, and whatever will happen will anyway happen. So this is so important to understand. And another thing is, you see, anger is when you shout at somebody, when you use words out of anger or you behave out of anger, then you kill the spirit of the other soul. And you see, souls are trying their best. They are trying really hard. And the only thing that can help them is your love. But instead of supporting them with love, what you're doing is you are spoiling them further with your anger. And Baba says that in a household there should be no anger. And Baba says that while living in, but there is a law, kameshu krodeshu, which means somebody who has lust will have anger. So, it is not possible to win over anger without winning over lust. So Baba says that you have to practice being celibate first and be purifying all your senses from the energy of lust, and then work on your anger. And then Baba today says greed. A household has to be free from the energy of greed. And you see that greed makes you steal. Yes, whether it is the greed for things, whether it is the greed for attainments, whether it is the greed for power and appreciation, greed makes you steal. And you can never forget whatever you have stolen. So, even if you were a 5-year-old child or a 2-year-old child and you stole something, you remember it until today, don't you? And you took somebody's pencil, didn't return in school, you took somebody's notebook, didn't return, or you took it from the library, you didn't return. You can never forget something that you have stolen, something that is not yours and you stole it, whether it is somebody's credit, whether it is somebody's money, whether it is somebody's things, whether it is somebody's right. If you have stolen it, you can never forget it. And just think about how much this act of stealing weighs on your heart. And how can you be a pure soul if you are acting out of greed and you are stealing things and behaving in a corrupt manner? And I told you earlier also that you can't save people from themselves. And these acts that we perform out of greed, whether it is in office, whether it is in society, whether it is in the family, whether it is with friends, whatever acts you perform, these little acts will not let you be free spirited, because there will always be fear, there will always be self-doubt because of the acts of greed that you have performed. And I think it's very important to free ourselves from the shackles of our own acts that we performed. And how do you do that? By giving your whole account to Baba. So when you submit all your acts to Baba, just sit before Baba and tell Baba all that you have done and promise that you're not going to repeat it, and take that determined promise. That's when you free yourself from greed and free yourself from the burden of the acts of greed. And I remember there was this one incident today. Baba says that even girls from good families, sisters from good families, when they see mithai, they will steal it and eat in the center. And I remember there was this one episode in a center, and gulab jamun were made in that center. And Didi said that take this bowl of gulab jamun and put it in the fridge, so that when guests come, we can serve them with gulab jamun. And then what happened is, it took 3 days for the guests to come. So when they finally arrived, there was one party and there were children, Baba's children, who had come. And Didi said, Didi called that sister and she said, go Behan, bring that bowl of gulab jamun and we will serve everybody. And that sister went and she didn't return. So 15 minutes, 30 minutes happened and then she didn't return. And then Didi sent another sister and she also didn't return. And then Didi went herself. And then she found that this sister, the previous one, who she had asked to keep the gulab jamuns, she was sitting on the roof and crying. And the other sister was consoling her and also shouting at her. So then she inquired what happened. So then the sister said, so you see, Didi, I kept the gulab jamun and I felt greedy, so I ate one. And then after 2 hours, I ate another. And then after 2 hours, I ate another. And 3 days, the gulab jamuns were in the fridge, and I ate the whole bowl. And now, when you asked for them, then I was very guilty and I felt sad and I felt very miserable. And then you see, the Didi said, it's not about the gulab jamun. You see, now you're crying. You ate something sweet and it made you cry. Why? Because it was done with greed, right? So Baba says that it is not a sin to have something or strive for something, get it, no problem. But when you're greedy, you take the wrong route. You take the route of stealing and corruption, and when you do those things, it weighs heavy on your heart and you cannot free yourself from the burden of those acts. So Baba says, this is why don't act out of greed. Don't engage in corruption and stealing because of greed while living in the household. And then Baba says that attachment and anger, of course, in the household, attachment is such that it spoils everything. And Baba says that if you want to do something bigger, you want to be in higher consciousness, you want to be a sevadhari, you cannot be a sevadhari when there is a big rassi, big rope tied around your waist, right? So attachment is like that rope. So when it is tied around your waist, can you fly high? It cannot happen. So it will pull you down. And you have attachment with vicious souls, and when they pull you down, you will come down. That's why Baba says, while living in the household, know that everybody is just a co-traveler on this journey, and I am Baba's child, and I have to listen to Baba's Shrimat and take my inheritance from Baba, and also free yourself from ego. So Baba says that while living in the household, imbibe virtues and give up on defects, and only then can you make Bharat into heaven and make yourself into a deity. And it's not a small task, and no big task happens without sacrifice. And Baba says you have to sacrifice these vices so that this world can change. Individual sacrifice will lead to the realization of collective goals. Okay, Om Shanti.